If you've been through grief and loss, you probably know what it looks like. Sadness, distraction, maybe even depression. But it turns out there's more than one way that grief and loss can look, and if we don't know that, then we might be surprised when we see an unexpected strategy being used. So there are two different ways, two different types of handling grief. Intuitive grief looks like what we expect. People who might lean on other people or go to support groups, talk about it, or just maybe so overcome with emotion that they're holed up in their house. But instrumental grievers tend to be the ones who immediately start doing something. I told a story in my first book, The Giving Prescription, about Dan and Marisol. And after losing a child, Dan started making these wooden boxes, and Marisol worried he was in denial. We sometimes think that when people don't behave with grief the way we would, that they might be in denial. But it turns out what Dan was showing was something called positive acceptance. He was an instrumental griever, and he was building these boxes to give to other people. It was doing something. We used to think that this Kubler-Ross stage model of grief started with denial and then progressed to all the other stages. But recent research has debunked that. We don't so much move through these stages in a linear fashion as we might live in one space and then we move on to another stage and then we can go back and forth. It's much more fluid than we expected. But an instrumental griever may not look like they're grieving in the same way that we expect grief or loss to look. In fact, it can be incredibly healthy because these people are putting in positive work and they might reach acceptance about their new normal sooner than other people. So if you see some surprising responses to grief and loss in a loved one or even in yourself, don't assume that it's denial. Don't assume that it's unhealthy, because there are some really surprising ways we can all respond when we're facing grief and loss, and they might actually be really healthy.